for joining us on World Now. I am Olamide Adeyemi. Iran's military and political leaders have pledged allegiance to the new supreme leader, who has been named to replace his father as the country's supreme leader. The decision was announced on Sunday by the Assembly of Experts, the clerical body responsible under Iran's constitution for selecting the country's leadership. Appointment comes days after the death of Ali Khamenei, who had served as Iran's supreme leader since 1989. Reactions have continued to trail Iran's naming of Mojtaba Khamenei as the country's new leadership. China's foreign ministry, while arguing that the development is an internal issue, warned against an external effort to overhaul its government system. Meanwhile, the U.S.-Israel-Iran war has continued, with explosions reported in Qom and Tehran after hours after the Israeli attacks on oil facilities caused toxic smoke across the Iranian capital. Oil prices jumped more than 25% to their highest level since mid-2022, as some major producers slashed their supplies, and fears of prolonged shipping disruptions have gripped the market due to the expanding war. For more on this conversation, I'm joined by social reformist Mojtaba Kehinde. It's good to have you join us on the World Now. Following the war, we see that the United States has killed the former supreme leader, only to have him replaced by his hardline son. What do you make of this, and what message is this likely to send?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on your show. So, yes, the Assembly of Experts in Iran have elected a new leader.
Take that out of the picture at this moment, but I'll still ask you what you make of this. Those who made this decision, why they decided that his son will be the best to handle this.
Okay, well, for the Assembly of Experts, they call them experts, so definitely they will know best on the criteria to consider to choose the next leader. So, but looking at the entire leadership structure, it's more like a hereditary and a kind of a monarchy system, because this thing is about 3 leaders now. He happens to be the 3rd leader who has ever got into that position in the Islamic Revolution 47 years ago. So the point remains like, to me, I see it like they are running kind of a monarchy, theocratic system. So probably that's the reason why it was being selected. And also there are some criteria being considered for someone to be in such position, maybe the wealth, and since he inherited the wealth of his father, and also maybe because of his influence and some other criteria. I don't know. The experts, the Assembly of Experts know better. They are 88 in numbers. So for the 88 to make a consensus on who to be the next leader, I think they actually know best. So, but to me, I see that the kind of a monarchy system that it's not always to play the father.
And some have interpreted this as a sort of a rebuke to the United States. We see that the new supreme leader, which is in place, how is it likely that the U.S. will try and work with its regional allies to counter what maybe his next move might be? There are allegations that he may be sort of more of a hardline leader than his father.
Okay, yes, thank you for that question. Just like Trump said that he needs to be part of the decision that we elect the next leader. And I'm quite sure that Trump wasn't consulted to before. I mean, he wasn't reached out to before choosing the next leader. And I don't see how the present leader is going to manage the country without Trump's approval. And in his best interest, I will advise that I will advise the Mojtaba to make a deal. Just like the Venezuela now, the present president, or let me call him active president, already strike a deal with the U.S. And the U.S. is also asking Cuba to strike a deal. So Iran can actually make a deal with the U.S. And with that, I think a peace treaty can be signed. But the whole essence of the war is all about peace and how Iran can actually relinquish its nuclear ambition. So the question is the president leader ready? Because it's more like the commander-in-chief. The president of the country is now actually the leader. The supreme leader makes this supreme, just like the name implies. So what I'm saying now is like the decision of whether Iran will continue to enrich its uranium or not lies with the leader. And we are hoping to hear from in his first speech whether he's going to pursue that ambition or is going to probably relinquish or abort that ambition.
Temitope, I think it's way easier from your own end of the table to suggest him making a deal after his father was killed and other family members in this case. But some of the justification for starting the war by the White House have been shifting over the last weeks. We've seen some comment by President Donald Trump saying that Iran was about 2 weeks from developing an actual nuclear weapon. How credible do you think this was for someone who has been monitoring development in the past few weeks?
Okay, sorry, can you recap the question, please?
Well, I was asking you about the fact that President Donald Trump mentioned that Iran was about 2 weeks from starting or producing a nuclear weapon, which would have been, a bit difficult to contain. The reason for the war, the justification for starting this war, has perhaps shifted from the motive at the beginning. Talk to us about how credible you think this assertion by the president really was for someone who has been monitoring Iran's, political space in the past few weeks.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Well, there is no credibility in the statement because Iran itself is not transparent enough as regards its nuclear activities. Because, for example, there was a time they suspended the IEA from actually inspecting their facilities, and at the time too, they also give them the approval. So within this period, we don't know what actually is the speculation of saying they will have this maybe nuclear weapon that is up to weapon grade. They have been speculating it for years, not even 5 years, it's not even 10 years ago. So it's going to be a speculation, and what I believe is Trump here is about they don't want to have another North Korea. Just like today, North Korea is there, nobody could touch them. So everybody is scared about what Iran can do if they have a nuclear weapon. And we could see that in the last 10 days, they've actually attacked more than 12 countries, I think about 13 countries now. And most of those strikes were not, they were not justly contained. For example, what I'm trying to say is Azerbaijan has been a very close ally of Iran, but I don't know why Azerbaijan was actually struck. But I'm not sure they have US base. So they were just probably firing indiscriminately at every country, every neighboring country. So the question is, if Iran has a nuclear weapon today, what's going to be the fate of their neighbors?
Let's talk about what the next few weeks and months would potentially look like. We've seen an increase in the casualty figures.
Okay.
Can you respond to that? I'm asking you about what the next weeks and months will potentially look like in this war. The casualty rate has been increasing in the past few days.
Okay, in the next few weeks, if I'm going to forecast, I'm looking at the time that the leader is ready to strike a deal with the United States president and Israel. And from my own point of view, I would advise that the country make a peace treaty. Many countries have tried in making this a war in the past, and they ended up making a peace in the end because there's not going to be a winner in the end. In every war, there is not going to be any rightful winner or rightful losers. So the best thing I'm seeing that a deal will be struck as soon as possible because it happened and Egypt strike a deal. It has happened in the past and Jordan strike a deal. And I don't see that Israel is not ready to strike a deal. So they just want this nuclear ambition to relinquish. So once they can give up on this ambition, I'm very sure that and if they're ready to also normalize with the country, UAE has already normalized with Israel. They talk about Bahrain, they are already normalized with Israel. Israel is open to Abraham Accord. I know Abraham Accord is between Israel and Arab countries, but Iran can also pioneer another accord that will be between maybe OIC countries and Israel. So peace is the main goal of every system. Let's make it peace and let's flourish together. So in the next few weeks, I am most likely a deal will be struck. And if it did not strike, then one of the one of the contestants in this war must actually surrender, which I don't know who's going to surrender for now.
Well, looking at the military capacity of both nations, it's likely to foresee who will surrender. But Iran's attack on the Gulf states are continuing. How should the governors of these Gulf states, because this has affected even energy, balance the need to protect their territory with also a desire to avoid being drawn deeper into this conflict?
Exactly, and that is why the country should take a caution, and that's why the newly elected leader will also act fast. Because as of today now, oil is now selling more than $100 per barrel. Also, we know that the Strait of Hormuz, which controls like one fifth of the entire world oil supply chain, it's also being paused, like temporarily paused for now. Like ships are not allowed to move except they want to risk their lives. So the point there is like in the next few days or next few weeks, which I don't know, things will be worse because there's a forecast now that most likely in few days' time that oil price is going to reach maybe $150 per barrel, which is going to be catastrophic. So the point I want to make is like the best, like I still insist, is like Iran must make a deal. If Iran doesn't make a deal, then the consequences will be much. But there have always been consequences on both sides because, like Israel, too, they have always been bombarded with cluster weapons. And also, Iran too has been bombarded, destroyed most of their refineries, depot, and all that. And also, the Arab countries. And I also want to commend the Arab countries for their patience because they have only been defended, if not attacked. And this is a big reason why I also say that Iran needs to be careful because this pathway of just indiscriminately bombing many of their neighbors is not a good one. It's not good, and the consequence is going to be more severe if they also attack in retaliation.
And, there have been concerns as to how this is, affecting other nations, the impact of this war, most especially in Nigeria, as we have seen a drastic increase in the price of fuel. But we've seen President Donald Trump saying he wasn't exactly seeking negotiations in this case to ending the conflict. Are there any diplomatic channels still available?
Yeah, there are diplomatic channels. Oman has been fronting this channel being a mediator between the countries, but Oman also has gotten his own bite of this deal. So he was also strike, and I don't know whether it's going to resume that, whether Oman is ready to resume that mediation. But outside that, I think China, I read it yesterday and also 2 days ago, that China too is ready to also mediate. So hopefully, let's say this week, we should get a good mediator to come in and fill the gap.
All right, we wait out to see a positive response as to a mediation from both parties. That's a fine place to leave the conversation for now. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Right,
Social reformist Mojtaba. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Watching the world now on TVC News. We'll take a short break and return with more stories. Stay with us.